In the broad, shimmering expanse of the savannah, the daybreak glimmered over a land where life normally moved in a graceful, predictable rhythm. Under the vast dome of an endless sky, golden grasses swayed in the gentle breeze, and solitary acacia trees stretched their branches toward the sun, casting sporadic shadows on the parched earth. At the heart of this sweeping wilderness roamed Zahara, a majestic giraffe whose stately presence and discerning eyes set her apart as a natural leader of her herd. As the first hints of sunrise painted the horizon in soft hues of amber and rose, Zahara sensed that something was amiss. Though the savannah was typically a place of enduring balance, subtle signs began to disrupt the familiar cadence of life. The lush patches of grass that once flourished under the nurturing warmth of the sun now appeared to droop and wither. Waterholes, which had long been the lifelines for the countless animals relying on them, started to shrink, their once vibrant reflections now dulled by dust and neglect. Zahara, with her heightened instincts finely tuned to the pulse of the land, noticed these changes in the quiet moments of early morning. The gentle rustle of the dry grass and the whisper of the wind through the sparse leaves carried with them an undercurrent of disturbance. A somber realization took root in her heart: the savannah was on the brink of a crisis that could jeopardize the delicate ecosystem upon which her herd and every creature in this vast land depended. Her long, graceful neck lifted as she surveyed the expanse before her, her large, intelligent eyes absorbing every detail. Far beyond the familiar grazing grounds, there lay hints of an unseen danger. The winds carried a faint scent of dust and decay, and the slight tremors underfoot suggested that deeper, more profound changes were at work beneath the surface. This was not the usual ebb and flow of nature, but a call to action, a warning that the equilibrium of the land was under threat. In those quiet, reflective moments at dawn, Zahara gathered her thoughts and steeled herself for the challenges ahead. She was not only a leader but also a guardian of her community, a symbol of hope and strength amidst the growing uncertainty. With every beat of her heart, she felt a burgeoning responsibility to protect her herd from the encroaching peril. The murmurs of the savannah seemed to echo her inner resolve, urging her to investigate the origins of this insidious decline. Though uncertainty loomed like a distant storm cloud, Zahara's spirit remained unyielding. She knew that the survival of her herd required more than mere vigilance; it demanded the courage to venture into the unknown and the wisdom to decipher nature's cryptic signals. Determination welled up within her as she resolved to seek out the cause behind the withering vegetation and drying waterholes, a mystery that could hold the key to restoring the savannah's once bountiful life. Thus began Zahara's journey, marked by both reverence for the ancient rhythms of the wild and the urgent need to save her cherished home. In the quiet majesty of the dawn, with the first rays of sunlight breaking over the horizon and casting a hopeful glow on the troubled land, the stage was set for a heroic quest that would test her resolve, ignite unity among her fellow creatures, and ultimately restore balance to a crisis that threatened to unravel the very fabric of the savannah. As days passed, the savannah began to transform under an ever-growing sense of urgency. What started as a few withering blades of grass soon evolved into a dramatic shift in the entire ecosystem. The relentless sun, usually a source of life-giving warmth, now burned with a fiercer, uncompromising intensity. Far from being a benign celestial body, it appeared to be a merciless overseer, its rays intensifying the drying of once fertile land. Zahara, ever watchful and perceptive, noticed that the relentless heat was accompanied by sudden bursts of wild, unpredictable weather. The clear blue skies were intermittently obscured by dark, heavy clouds that gathered with an ominous purpose. Then, seemingly without warning, torrential downpours would come crashing down, only to be followed by long periods of searing drought. These rapid shifts in climate left the savannah in a state of disarray, creating pools of muddied water that were as treacherous as they were scarce. The very ground beneath Zahara's hooves began to crack and crumble. The once solid earth, which had reliably sustained the herd and countless other creatures, was now marred with deep fissures. These fractures in the soil were a visual reminder of the underlying imbalance that had taken hold. The waterholes, once shimmering beacons of life in the harsh landscape, shrank steadily, their mirrors now replaced by dusty basins lacking the refreshing promise of water. Animals across the savannah were visibly affected by these drastic changes. The usual herds of zebras, wildebeests, and other grazers, which typically converged around reliable water sources, now found themselves scattered in search of diminishing resources. The sense of community was tinged with desperation as the animals, normally calm and predictable, grew restless and anxious. Zahara could feel the tension building not only in the environment but also in the hearts of her fellow creatures, a palpable fear of an uncertain future creeping into every glance and gesture. In the midst of this escalating turmoil, Zahara took on the mantle of both observer and communicator. Using her vast panoramic view of the savannah, she began to identify patterns in the chaos. Each gust of wind, each flash of lightning, seemed to carry a clue about the root causes of the impending disaster. With a commanding presence, she communicated these findings in subtle ways to her herd, using low, deliberate calls and body language that conveyed both urgency and hope. In these exchanges, the air was thick with a shared understanding. The crisis was not isolated, and it threatened every living being in the savannah. Determined to learn more, Zahara reached out to neighboring groups. She approached other species, wise elephants, agile antelopes, and vigilant birds, who all narrated their own accounts of the strange weather and dwindling water supplies. Their voices, each tinted with worry and seasoned with experience, painted a broader picture of a land losing its equilibrium. The savannah, once a model of natural balance, now teetered on the edge of collapse. This chapter in the saga was not merely a backdrop of environmental hardship, it was a call to collective action. The gathering storm, both literal and metaphorical, challenged every inhabitant to rethink their role in the ecosystem. Zahara's heart burned with the weight of responsibility. As a leader, she knew that the well-being of her herd depended on their ability to adapt and respond to these harsh new realities. In the eye of this growing storm, as nature's fury built up across the horizon, Zahara steeled her resolve. The crisis was deep and multifaceted, affecting water, land, and the delicate interdependence among species. The savannah was sending a clear message: without decisive action, the cycle of life would be disrupted forever. With every passing moment, the pressure mounted, setting the stage for an extraordinary quest, a journey into the heart of the savannah's turmoil to uncover the truth and restore the natural order before it was too late. Amidst the uncertainty and mounting tension of the changing savannah, Zahara reached a decisive moment, a call to transcend mere vigilance and act boldly. As the crisis deepened, she knew that the fate of her herd and the entire ecosystem would depend on confronting the root of the deterioration. It was time for her to step beyond the familiar grazing grounds, to venture into uncharted territories, and to seek the answers hidden within the distressed heartbeat of the land. With a resolve steeled by her deep connection to the natural rhythms, Zahara began by assembling a small but diverse delegation drawn from among her most trusted companions. Each member of her group brought unique strengths to the task at hand: a wise old matriarch whose memories carried invaluable lessons from past hardships, a fleet-footed young giraffe, whose energy and boundless curiosity promised fresh perspectives, and even representatives from other species who had suffered from the shifting conditions, including a cautious antelope and a perceptive parrot known for its keen observations of the skies. Together, they embarked on a journey into the very heart of the savannah's disturbances. Their trek led them into landscapes that were as daunting as they were unfamiliar: barren stretches of land where the soil cracked under the relentless sun, and dry riverbeds that whispered of long-forgotten waters. Every step was laced with the urgency of their mission, a mission not only to understand the source of the crisis but also to restore the balance that was essential for all life. As they traversed these stark terrains, Zahara encouraged her companions with both words and actions. At night, under expansive starlit skies, she shared the stories of ancient times when the savannah thrived under a harmonious balance of nature. With a soothing yet determined tone, she reminded them that their ancestors had overcome adversity by uniting their strengths and trusting in the wisdom of the land. Her voice resonated with hope, inspiring the group to push forward despite the daunting obstacles they faced. The delegation's journey was not without peril. They encountered patches of treacherous terrain, areas where loose gravel and hidden crevices threatened to derail their progress. Predators, also driven to desperation by the dwindling resources, lurked in the shadows, their eyes reflecting the harsh realities of a land in crisis. Yet, it was during these moments of danger that Zahara's leadership shone brightest. She navigated through these hazards with measured caution, using her lofty vantage point and innate intuition to guide her group along safer routes. Her presence provided both a physical shield and an emotional anchor, bolstering the group's morale when the weight of uncertainty threatened to overwhelm them. On quieter days, the journey took on a more introspective quality. Amid the rustling grasses and the sparse calls of distant wildlife, Zahara and her companions contemplated the profound questions of their existence. They discussed the intricate connections between all living beings on the savannah and the delicate interplay of water, soil, and life that had begun to unravel. These moments of reflection deepened their resolve, instilling in them not only a sense of urgency but also a commitment to preserving the natural heritage of their land. As the delegation pressed onward into the unknown, Zahara's call to courage transformed from a solitary decision into a shared purpose. The members of the group, once doubtful and fearful of the challenges ahead, now moved as a unified force, their spirits buoyed by the promise of renewal. Their collective journey, marked by acts of bravery and the willingness to confront daunting adversity, was a testament to the enduring power of hope in the face of crisis. Thus, as the savannah continued to tremble under the gathering storm, Zahara led her newfound allies with unwavering determination, determined to uncover the truth behind the land's suffering and to restore the balance that had sustained the savannah for generations. The call to courage resonated in every stride, signaling the beginning of an extraordinary adventure, a quest that would require all the strength, wisdom, and unity that the vast, ever-changing wilderness could muster. Emboldened by her steadfast resolve and the unity fostered by her delegation, Zahara led her band into the most perilous reaches of the savannah, a treacherous expedition that would test their physical endurance and unyielding spirit. The journey took them farther from the familiar grazing lands into a landscape scarred by neglect and hardship. Here, the earth was cracked and parched, its surface split by deep fissures that threatened to swallow the unwary. The once gentle terrain had transformed into a hostile environment where every step was a calculated risk. As they advanced, the group confronted unexpected natural obstacles. The heat of the day became oppressive, forcing them to seek refuge under sparse, thorny shrubs during the scorching noon. Underfoot, loose soil and gravel shifted unpredictably with every stride, and the horizon was haunted by billowing dust clouds stirred up by intermittent, violent gusts of wind. The elements raged without mercy in this unforgiving expanse, as if the land itself was rebelling against the disruption of its ancient harmony. In the midst of this desolation, Zahara's intuition guided her toward the epicenter of the crisis, a remote valley that lay shrouded in a disquieting silence. As the delegation neared this somber landmark, the signs of imbalance became startlingly apparent. The waterholes, long established as the lifeblood of the savannah, were nowhere to be found. Instead, there was a vast, barren plain where the earth seemed to whisper of lost streams and forgotten rains. There, among the jagged fractures of dry earth, the group discovered the root of the savannah's suffering, a massive subterranean fissure that had widened over time, diverting the ancient water channels away from their natural course. The sight was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, a raw manifestation of nature's vulnerability when pushed beyond its limits. The relentless heat had exacerbated the rift, deepening the cuts in the soil and accelerating the loss of the vital water supply. Aware that the future of her herd and countless other lives depended on reversing this disaster, Zahara quickly mobilized the delegation into action. She meticulously examined the terrain, her large, vigilant eyes scanning for natural cues among the ruins. Using her innate understanding of the savannah's rhythms, she recognized that the solution lay in redirecting the runaway water back to its rightful paths. However, the task was monumental. It required not only courage but also a deep respect for the delicate balance of the ecosystem. With cautious determination, Zahara and her companions crafted a plan. They first identified a series of natural water channels that could potentially be reopened if given a gentle nudge in the right direction. Working together, the animals began to clear debris and reshape small channels carved by the relentless winds over the years. It was a process that involved painstaking effort, precise timing, and a shared faith in the possibility of renewal. During moments of respite, Zahara encouraged the group with quiet, reassuring murmurs, her gentle words cutting through the oppressive heat and fear that sometimes threatened to overwhelm them. Predators, emboldened by the chaotic state of the savannah, occasionally lurked in the periphery of the expedition. Their silhouettes darted between the sparse, brittle vegetation, adding an ever-present sense of danger to the already daunting task. Nonetheless, Zahara's steadfast leadership and the cohesive unity among the group ensured that every challenge was met with resolve. Every obstacle, be it shifting sands, collapsing earth, or the threat of lurking danger, was navigated with precision and mutual support. As the expedition wore on, the team's tireless efforts began to bear fruit. Gradually, small trickles of water reappeared where there had been none, weaving their way through the arid landscape like threads of hope. These gentle streams, once diverted and nearly forgotten, signaled a turning point. In the shadow of that vast, desolate fissure, nature's resilience started to reassert itself. With each passing moment, the plan unfolded as intended, and the savanna's parched soil began to drink in the returning water. In this climactic chapter of their journey, the risky expedition was more than a mere physical trial, it was a testament to the extraordinary power of collaborative spirit and the unyielding determination to heal a wounded land. Zahara's leadership shone as a beacon of hope amidst harsh adversity, inspiring every creature in the group to believe in the possibility of restoration and renewal. With hearts entwined in the shared mission, they pressed forward, undeterred by the magnitude of the challenge, knowing that the survival of their world depended on one daring act of reclamation. As the first light of dawn broke over the recovering savannah, Zahara and her devoted delegation beheld a transformed landscape that spoke of hope and renewal. The relentless efforts in the desolate valley had not only redirected the hidden streams but had also reignited the lifeblood of the land. In what once seemed a barren, hopeless plain, soft, glistening currents of water began to weave through the parched earth like delicate threads of possibility, gradually bringing the soil back to life. The reappearance of the water stirred a cascade of changes. Small, resilient tufts of green began to sprout where the dry, cracked surface had prevailed for too long. As the streams gathered strength, they fed scattered waterholes that were now slowly refilling. The gentle gurgle of flowing water became a soothing counterpoint to the earlier chaos, a sound that resonated with the spirit of the savannah and heralded the rebirth of an ancient ecosystem. Zahara, standing tall and vigilant at the forefront of her herd, felt a deep sense of satisfaction mingled with the humble responsibility of their journey. Her eyes, still alert from the trials of the expedition, softened as she observed her kin. The once weary expressions of the herd had been replaced by looks of cautious optimism. The unity forged during the crisis had strengthened them all, transforming fear into determination and despair into hope. Zahara's courageous leadership had reawakened not only the land but also the collective spirit of the animal community. In the days that followed, the savannah transformed into a dynamic tapestry of life, rediscovering its old rhythms. Migratory birds returned to the skies, their calls echoing across the renewed landscape. Herds of zebras, antelopes, and other creatures emerged from their shelters, drawn by the returning abundance of water and nourishment. Even the smaller inhabitants, the insects and timid rodents, played their part, each contributing to the vast mosaic of life that was slowly mending the wound of the crisis. Within this rejuvenated environment, Zahara led her herd with a deep sense of purpose. She initiated gatherings beneath the shade of ancient acacia trees, where animals shared stories of survival and reinforced commitments to protecting their fragile habitat. These meetings were not merely about recounting past hardships but were vibrant celebrations of resilience, a reminder that every living being had a role in the delicate balance of the savannah. The restored water channels and budding vegetation signified more than just physical recovery, they symbolized the regeneration of relationships between species and the ecosystem as a whole. Zahara's instinctive call to action had not only reversed the damage but had also fostered a new paradigm of cooperation among the creatures of the savannah. They understood that each act of shared sacrifice and every strategic maneuver played a crucial role in mending a world once on the brink of collapse. As the sun ascended higher in the clear, blue sky, the savannah bathed in a gentle, golden light that seemed to promise endless possibilities. Zahara, with her graceful neck held high and eyes filled with a visionary gleam, took a moment to reflect on the journey. She recognized that while challenges might arise in the future, the spirit of the savannah and the unity it had embraced was unbreakable. Each ripple in the water and every new bud in the grass was a tribute to the hard-won victory over adversity. Thus, in the bright morning of a new era, the crisis that had once threatened everything had given way to a rebirth of nature. With hearts still beating the rhythm of perseverance and hope, Zahara and her herd stepped forward into a future where every sunrise was a promise of balance restored, a testament to the enduring power of courage, unity, and the unyielding bond between all the living beings of the savannah.